Alright, good afternoon ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kyle Taylor and I'm here to tell you a little bit about our speaker. She is a sophomore. She was formerly in animal and poultry sciences, but she made the switch to wildlife conservation, where she is in the College of Natural Resources. And another fun fact about her, she was born in Germany. Now, many of you have all heard of GMOs, or genetically modified organisms. When we hear that, we think of plants such as corn, wheat, or rice. Well, she's here to give us a little bit different spin and tell us about genetically modified animals. So, with that, please give it to Ms. Jessica Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Kyle. Hello, I'm Jessica Fitzpatrick, and today we will be expanding the definition of GMOs. So, when many people think about genetically modified organisms, as Kyle said, they often think of plants like Roundup Ready corn, soybeans, and you've heard in my previous talks just like BT cotton and the Roundup Ready corn. But they don't usually talk about the amazing innovations going on in this field, especially when it comes to animals. Well, Funk and Rainey conducted a survey in 2014 and actually found that 57% of United States citizens view GMOs as generally unsafe. By a show of hands, how many of you view GMOs as being unsafe or hazardous? Alright. Okay. Well, my objectives today are to recognize advances that are happening in the field of genetically modified organisms with a focus on animals, and we are going to understand how a food product receives approval by the FDA, and we're going to debunk some myths that involve GMOs. So, how many of you have ever heard of AccuAdvantage salmon? Okay. Well, on November 19, 2015, it became the first genetically engineered animal to receive approval for human consumption by the FDA. It is only different from its non-genetically engineered counterpart because it grows more rapidly and reaches market size sooner. And a normal wild Atlantic salmon takes 16 to 28 months to reach adult size, while the AA salmon only takes 36 months for the wild salmon and 16 to 28 for this one. And it actually eats 25% less feed, and 99% of the eggs are infertile to prevent spread to the wild population, and that's often a concern for people with GMOs because they don't want to disrupt nature. Some may be wondering what qualifications the salmon had to get approval, but first I will tell you what the FDA is. It is an organization that is responsible for protecting the public health by assuring the safety, efficacy, and security of human and veterinary drugs, biological products, medical devices, and our nation's food supply, cosmetics, and products that emit radiation. And most importantly, it monitors the safety of our nation's food supply. So, what qualifications did the AccuAdvantage salmon have to receive safety approval? Well, in order for an animal to receive the approval for human consumption, it must be safe to eat, the genes that are introduced must be safe to the animal itself, and the product must meet the sponsor's claim. And in this case, the claim was that it grows faster, and it did. So, also, the FDA states that AccuAdvantage salmon is as safe to eat as non-genetically engineered salmon and has a similar nutritional profile. So, what would drive people to take such a strong stand against this with similar genes and nutritional profile, and if it poses virtually no harm to wild populations? Well, fear is that, like I said before, AccuAdvantage salmon may escape into wild populations, and this would disrupt nature. Well, rest assured, the bases in Canada and Panama have taken many measures to prevent this. So first of all, like I said before, 99% of the salmon are infertile because they are bred to be triploid. So they're going to have a very hard time if they ever did escape breeding with the other salmon. So that's good. But also, they are bred on land bases as opposed to being in the ocean where maybe some could escape. And because they're on land bases and there are many physical barriers, it would be highly unlikely that eggs or fish would ever escape. the AccuAdvantage salmon is historic for being the first to receive approval by the FDA, there are other research projects that are going on that have more impressive benefits, such as the EnviroPig. The EnviroPig is a genetically engineered pig that is capable of digesting the indigestible phytate that is found in a lot of feeds. So usually in agriculture, they have the cereal grains that they feed to the pigs, and the pigs cannot often digest the phytate, which is the source of the phosphorus, so they have to add phosphorus supplements to the feed, and then that results in excess phosphorus in the manure, which then can run off into waterways, causing excessive algal growth, which is a leading cause in fish deaths. So, with the EnviroPig, it has an enzyme called phytase in its saliva, which breaks down the indigestible phytate, which then produces the need for supplemental phosphorus. And this results in less in the manure, less runoff, and less algal growth. This has economic benefits because they do not need to add the supplements, but also has environmental benefits because there's less algal growth, so the fish are safer. All right. Now, although this has environmental benefits and economical benefits, it did not pass FDA testing because it was not yet proven that the introduced genes did not pose any discomfort to the animal. And also, Ontario Pork ended the funding for the research. And you can really see how people disapprove of GMOs by Lucy Sherritt's quote, who is a coordinator with Canadian Biotechnology Action Network. And she said they were relieved that the funding stopped because the public's generally not in favor of genetically modified food animals. And hopefully, as excessive phosphorus pollution continues to endanger the lives of fish and other aquatic organisms, people will realize the benefits of the EnviroPig and other similar organisms and will start to support research for this and other similar projects. And GMOs provide more than just cost-effective production means and environmental benefits. There is also farming, which is with a pH. And this is where they modify animals to be able to produce drugs. And animals that can do this are cows, goats, sheep, and others that produce milk. And there are other methods of producing the drugs through these animals, through blood, eggs, semen, and urine, but milk is definitely the most productive, so that's the most common one you'll see. And so far, through their milk, they have been capable of producing protein drugs such as erythropoietin, which can treat anemia, blood clotting factors, which will help with hemophilia, and antithrombin 3, which will help with blood clots. This is a great method of drug production because the animals are easy to reproduce and easy to maintain. They're cared for just like other farm animals, so a really good way to produce the drugs without added work. And also, you may be wondering how the drugs are not produced throughout the body and how it's all kept concentrated in just the mammary glands. And it's because the scientists that are performing the research are able to turn on the promoter in just the mammary glands, and that keeps the drug production just in the milk and not throughout the body. And because mammary glands are not a main part of the life support system, this also poses virtually no harm to the animal. So now we are going to debunk some of the common myths that fuel the non-GMO movement. And one common argument that I hear, especially from farmers and even some of my own family members, are that GMOs cause allergies, cancer, and other health problems. And this is not a complete myth because when new genes are introduced, they can express new proteins that could cause an immune reaction. However, the producers that are marketing these products run them through allergy tests and work with the FDA to ensure that they're not going to be hazardous to the public, because it would be very counterintuitive to market a product that everyone's going to get sick from and that the FDA will eventually shut down. So while this is a possibility, it is very unlikely and would be counterintuitive to a producer to do that. Another one is that the technology is too new and we don't know the long-term effects and potential hazards of GMOs. Well, GMOs are not all that new, and they've actually, the first commercial product debuted in 1994, and there have been many safety studies done since then that focus a lot on human health and safety, and the scientific consensus is that existing GMOs are no more or less risky than conventional crops. And as you've heard in some of my other speeches, one of the myths that bothers me the most is when they say genetically modified crops cause farmers to overuse pesticides and herbicides. And as I've told you before, BT cotton contains the bacteria Bacillus thuringiensis, and that actually acts as an insecticide, so that they do not need to add insecticides because that bacteria is already toxic to the insects. And in Roundup Ready corn, the corn is resistant to the herbicide glyphosate, so that farmers may spray that all over their crops and don't have to add other herbicides. And while it has increased the use of glyphosate, glyphosate is one of the least toxic herbicides available, and so yes, there's an increase, but it's in a very mild one. I hope that you all learned at least one new thing about what is going on in the field of genetic engineering. When people hear the word genetic engineering, they usually jump to examples involving plants, but as you learned today, there's a whole world of genetic engineering involving animals. You learned 3 different types of research that involves animals, some of the qualifications that must be met to receive FDA safety certification, and you learned why some of the fears of GMOs are misguided. So, I encourage you all to research more about what is going on today in the world of modern science, and so that we, as a group of informed people, can bring that staggeringly high 57% of disapproval down. Let's change the way that America and people of the world look at genetic engineering and GMOs. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Go ahead, Paul. So 99% of the sand and water are fertile. Well, let's say that 1% got out.